Snowy peaks and open skies, northern winds whisper goodbyes. Dreams take root where the maples grow, a land of promise where rivers flow. Welcome to the north, where the lights shine so bright, chasing every dream beneath the stars tonight. Every step you take, a journey to belong, building futures here where hearts grow strong.
Hello, everyone.
Lakes like mirrors, reflecting pride.
All right, we are back at it, Igor and I. We have another live Q&A that we're going to do for you guys today. I bet you didn't think we were going to have one. We are wrapping up 2025, Igor. So what do you think of this crazy year?
Well, it's crazy how time flies, right? I still remember how we celebrated the last New Year. We made a huge blog post with all the updates that took place in the year. This year, it was even crazier. And so I don't even know how to summarize all of the events that unraveled in 2025. And I think 2026 is going to be even crazier. But I'm looking forward to the next year. And I'm very grateful for what 2025 brought to us. For some people, that was a year of significant change. For some, positive change. For some, negative change. But life goes on, and you just need to adapt to the new realities and prepare yourself for the next year.
You bet. That's exactly it. And I know for a lot of people, we did more consultations, I think, in 2025 than we had ever done in any previous year. And when things are difficult, when times are tough, when options are quickly running out and people really don't know what to do, that tends to be when they call the immigration lawyer. And we have spent an immense amount of time working with countless people to try to figure out strategies to allow them to stay. And where mistakes have been made, we have expanded, thanks to Igor, a lot of our appeal work and the judicial review work that we're doing with our clients. Immigration has made it more difficult than it could ever have been in the past. And I've been through a lot in over 22 years that I've been practicing. Never before have I seen immigration take such an adversarial approach to processing applications. You know, for years, even when I worked on the border as an officer and when I worked with the hearings officers, there was always this feeling of, you know, if you're doing your best, we know you're not trying to cheat the system, you've made a mistake, we will give you a second chance. And I remember one of the enforcement officers who lived down in Lethbridge, he's a close friend. I knew when he was doing a sting at one of the restaurants, whether it was the Pizza 73 or whatever it was, I knew that he was doing a sting because my phone would start to ring. And he always had this approach that people had one strike. So I should say they had two strikes. So essentially, if he caught them, and it was international students who were, you know, doing more hours than they were supposed to while they were studying, you know, as a delivery driver for whatever pizza joint. And he'd give them a chance. He'd say, look, okay, this is your one warning, but next time. And so that was his approach. But we don't have that anymore, Igor. And that was the enforcement officer. Immigration is actively looking for ways to refuse applications. And I think it's quite unconscionable, to tell you the truth, especially with our government. And they created the situation we're in. All these people who are here were following the rules, trying to do things properly. Now, for sure, there are some that are just cheaters and scammers, and I'd love for them all to be caught and shipped out of the country. But the vast majority of people are genuinely law-abiding people who are looking, you know, with anticipation for permanent residence in Canada and made decisions with their family, bringing them over here. And now the end is near. And that was part of the reason, Igor, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, that's why we created our Time's Up series on the Canadian Immigration Podcast, was to help people with all of these challenges that they're going through and to help them avoid the pitfalls and be prepared. And so this is the world we're in now. And it's a tough one, and 2026 is not going to be any different. We'll have to see how things unfold, but the Liberal government is going to get their way. They are going to see many, many people who are going to fall out of status. They're going to choose to return home, hopefully, the ones that don't have pathways. But there's going to be a lot of people who don't leave and just think that it's better to stay without authorization, which I'd encourage you to go back and listen to the episode that we did on the consequences of remaining in Canada without status. We are not the United States. Well, the Democrat United States. We are liberal, yes, but our policies are not that way. Removals are ramping up, and money is being put in place to facilitate that. So I don't know what your thoughts are, Igor, with this world we're in right now.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, many people resort to fraud, but they feel defrauded as well by the government. They were sold this dream, essentially a guarantee. All of those talks about digital nomad visas, opening our country to international students who are well integrated into society. All of this was a very nice fairy tale, that I don't know what purpose did it serve other than just perhaps lobbying some schools, maybe advancing someone's like financial interest. I don't know. I cannot think of anything else but the conspiracy theories,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But like those people, they feel that they've been lied to, and many feel like, if I lie myself, then we're we're done. It's one on one. I certainly understand the sentiment of some of the people, who wish to do it all, in order for them to stay in Canada. Some people decide to do it and remain in Canada without documents. I've been one of those people, who lived in another country without documents myself. But looking back, I think those 3 years that I spent in the United States as an undocumented immigrant were the 3 years wasted of my life. If I look back, should I have remained in Poland with my wife in legal status and just work towards coming to Canada in the same pace, but from Europe? Probably I would be here as well, but it would be a lot more enjoyable ride, I would tell this. But regardless, it's easier now to speculate how my life would go if I made a different decision. But what I wanted to say by this story is that I feel you. Like, I understand the desire to remain in a country where you feel protected, where you can afford food, you can afford housing, where you have friends, where you feel happy. I understand all of this, but sometimes it just does not worth it, especially in Canada. Like, I've been in New York City, right? It's a different world there. You can find jobs even without work authorizations. That's all just reality there. In Canada, it's so different. I have no clue how people survive here without documents, without driver's license, without bank accounts. It would be really tough. And so in 2026, probably my best advice and wish is that people don't make decisions just by reading Reddit, asking ChatGPT, should I stay legally in Canada or not? Don't make those decisions on your own. If you find yourself in a very challenging situation, it's always better to speak with someone, perhaps someone who made the decision that you're thinking about making, perhaps someone who's practicing in the area that affects you, like us immigration lawyers. We can tell you of the realities, of the complications, of the challenges, and so on. We can tell you whether it makes sense to submit an agency application when you don't have any grounds for it. whether you should submit a TRP application, whether you file a dummy work permit application. We can discuss this all in detail.
Yeah.
Probably our response would be no, you should not, right? And your best option is to leave. But there are different situations, and many people find themselves in very desperate situations, and this is where we come in. Like if you read through our Google reviews, many of them say that we're not just lawyers. We're essentially there to listen to you, and we are human beings. We have the same feelings. We're not like, okay, here's what you need to do. I don't really care what you think, right? I don't really care what you feel. We are sensitive to this, and this is what makes us different.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a question here. What a beautiful song. Who is the singer? Well, the software that I use is, I'm just looking here, trying to figure out. I'm having trouble connecting into my account, but I'll just share here. So this is actually a neat little piece of software called Suno, and I'm pretty sure this is the one. I'm having trouble signing in, but with a few little pieces of text, it writes the song for you. And so what I'm going to do here is I was going to create a song, a Happy New Year song. So I'm going to do this once we get Igor asking some questions while we're on the fly. We are actually, I want to let you guys in on a couple little things that we're going to do. One of the things that we're going to do is we are going to have our own little countdown here. So I don't know at 11 o'clock, Igor, where in the world they will be crossing over 2026, but maybe you can take a look for us. And then we are going to ring in the new year, Canadian Immigration Institute style, at 11 a.m. technically Mountain Time, but I'm gonna have Igor look and see where we would be ringing it in for people in real time. So let's see. We've got a couple other questions here that we've got pulled in here. Andrew, one thing I want to just confirm, Andrew says, well said, Igor, if we had known this was a fake dream, we would have gone to New Zealand, Germany, or somewhere else. Well, here's the reality. In the beginning, when they first kind of created express entry, created extra points for studying, they never envisioned that it was going to get like this. So in the beginning. But what happened was, and I specifically advised them when I was the national chair, I said, look, and this was in probably 2019, 2020. I said, look, you guys need to seriously rethink what you're doing here, because there are too many international students that are coming in and there's not going to be room for them all. And they just kind of poo-pooed it, didn't care. And so they had an opportunity to kind of turn the tap down. And so if they would have done that, then this dream that they were peddling, and let's face it, everybody could do the math. You didn't need someone to tell you what the options were. The reality is there were pathways for permanent residence for people who came to Canada based on the point thresholds. And probably for you, Andrew, that was probably the case. When you looked at things, you could see the scores were a certain way. But what happened was, as the numbers continued to climb and more people came, more and more study permits were approved. These, schools started popping up all over, which really probably weren't focused primarily on education, but more on just creating study permits and post-grad work permits for people who are coming in. That was one of the problem areas, and Ontario was the worst. But those situations created kind of this perfect storm where the increased demand then has pushed the availability of I don't know, any pathways to permanent residence just out of reach of so many people. I think the last I checked, Igor, was about 15% of people that are here in Canada on work permits may have a pathway to permanent residence in 2026. And it makes it extremely, extremely competitive. And one of the things we talk with our clients about all the time is finding ways to be able to wait everyone else out. So if you don't have enough points right now, and we know that the PNPs have now been reallocated more spots, so there should be more nominations available through the provincial nominee programs. But the reality is the people who are able to stay longer, it's kind of like a war of attrition, are going to have more opportunities as things hopefully start to get better and improve in the future. So maybe only 15% this year can get permanent residence. But if the numbers continue to drop for international students and foreign workers, and they're doing a very, very good job of trying to restrict that, then what that means is the people that are able to extend their permits while they're here, either through the Francophone Mobilité, or they live in a location where maybe their wage is in a low wage position, but it's in a region where the unemployment rates are not over 6%, or they're in a high paying wage and their employers can get LMIAs. So those individuals that are able to stay and maybe wait until 2027 or even 2028 in some cases, when hopefully this ship will right itself and then people will have pathways. But that's what we do, right, Igor? Our job is to try to help people not just figure out what to do right now, but well, what the future holds and what options. And sometimes we do tell people that it's in your best interest to go home. So those are all things that we discuss in our consultations. So as far as a fake dream,
we have 11:23 p.m. in Dhaka in Bangladesh
Dhaka,
right now.
Bangladesh. Okay. So Bangladesh, it looks like we're going to be ringing in the new year with you guys. Anyone here from Bangladesh tuning in? We shall see. We shall see. Awesome. All right. Let's see who else, if we've got any more shout outs here. Let's see. AHR says, I can't tell who this is. Igor, it was not a fairy tale. It was bad execution, not carefully planned, and corrupt people took advantage of the situation. Yeah, all those things played a role. All of them did. Yeah. And, but the reality is the fairy tale was still sold, right? So people were still selling the fairy tale, and the fairy tale was possible for people. But in the end, there is only so much fairy tale to go around, and that's what we ran into. Let's see. Arinzi says people who are overstaying their status are hoping to probably get married to their lover to restore status. Well, boy, this is another thing that immigration is keying on, and that's definitely not a bet that I would like to make. I'm not that, you're going to find someone that's going to marry you. It's a sad state of affairs.
And on this note, we had quite a few consultations where people tried to trick us.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And if we can spot the attempt to fraud, then officers can do that as well, because they see those applications on a daily basis in masses, right?
Yeah.
And regardless of how well your story is prepared, there are some keys, that we can identify, and it's always a bad idea to try to lie to your representative, because essentially our job is to represent you in the best way possible, and if we don't know the truthful information, that's a big no-no. And how can we prove something that we don't believe to an officer, right? So don't try that.
Yeah.
We've seen this quite a few times recently.
Igor, you tell me, why don't you share a little bit of a story on your on the folks that were trying to dupe you? This is important for people to understand. Mm-hmm. Do you want to share a little bit about?
I have to be careful with how I share.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can be careful, but just explain kind of some of the things that you saw that led you to believe that it wasn't probably a legitimate relationship and that it was just being designed. Because these are some of the things that people are looking at, even with our spouses that we know are genuine. It is now becoming so difficult to prove that it's not just, put in place to secure immigration status for someone who's running out of status in Canada.
Yeah. Well, there were many red flags. So first of all, the ID documents that had a sticker with an address on them, rather than the actual imprinted address in the actual driver's license.
Yeah.
We had discussions about mismatch in place of residence, even though two people lived in the same country. They lived in different provinces, and all of a sudden the timing of them getting married suspiciously coincided with the time when one of them got permanent residence. And when asked why that did not happen sooner or later, the response was kind of vague, and everyone can blame it on work, right? Oh, I have a busy work schedule, but like, come on, you're you're not getting married every single day, right? Like it's a big event, and you probably want to spend time with the person you plan to spend the rest of your life with. The next thing is how people actually meet. Oh, we met on Facebook. Oh, we met on Reddit. Oh, I don't know, I just accidentally phoned the wrong phone number, right? All of that happens. Like, I'm not saying that, like everyone's life story is very unique, and sometimes these stories are so unique that you cannot even believe it.
Yeah.
But when you have multiple red flags and all of them point to one an ambiguous conclusion, then if it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, then it's probably a duck, right? So I unfortunately I cannot share all the details,
Yeah.
just because of lawyer and client confidentiality. But you like if you try to fake something, it will look fake, whether you like it or not. And yeah, Mark, it's hard.
Yeah.
I just
No.
don't want to.
Yeah.
I just want to coach people,
Yeah.
how to lie.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's absolutely, like, when I represent clients, there are certain things that, and I know we didn't want to get off on a tangent about spousal sponsorship today, but the reality is it's still one of the pathways that people are using right now to try to find a way. And, and in some cases it's not legitimate. So one thing I wanted to identify is anytime you're in a situation where it just looks like the timing is awkward, that what you're trying to do, is it looks like your marriage, and often it is marriage because people don't have time to wait out a year to reach the common law. I would actually argue that if someone, of course, unless they're just trying to fake the common law as well, but if you get married, a week before the person's status expires, you got an uphill battle, because it's going to look like you're doing it, not for the, a genuine purpose, but really just to secure immigration status. And it becomes difficult as well when you don't have a lot of the indicia that a normal couple would have. In other words, all of the supporting documents. You don't have a joint, lease agreement where both of you are named, or utilities, or, your partner is listed in the beneficiaries for your work, or, shared bank accounts, or all these kinds of things. And like Igor identified, your driver's licenses have different addresses on them. So all of these things play a role, and they tell the story. One of the things that we do with our clients is we've got this special document that we give our clients that asks them very specific questions. And as you answer the questions, you create a joint narrative statement. So basically, an explanation of the whole evolution of your relationship. And it's interesting, Igor, because in that spousal relationship form that's a part of the application, there's this question. I think it's 11. It's like the third to last page. It ultimately, that single question, it basically says, tell us, please provide any additional information you have about the genuineness of the relationship. And that is probably the single most important question in the whole application. But the government just kind of tucks it in there almost as an afterthought in the application. So we go to great lengths to make sure that we're providing a full chronological, history and overview of the evolution of the relationship, and how everything came to be now where a sponsorship is being filed. And people, if you're not genuine, well, it's pretty hard to fake all that information that we include with our clients. So keep that in mind as you're going forward. Lots of thoughts. All right, let's jump in here. We have we've got Gonzana here. She says, "Thank you for your time, sharing your knowledge. Happy New Year," and connecting in from Victoria, BC, which is great. Great to see you over there. All right, let's get into some questions. Ramsey says, another question, is mentioning relative living in Canada on my Express Entry profile an aunt because I was not eligible? Then I've edited it to no because I can't gather passports to bills and add 2 languages. Okay, I'm just going to ring this right here. And I'm going to tell you, Ramsey, that if you're saying no to something that you should be saying yes to, that is misrepresentation. And if you are going down that path, trust me, you're going to have issues. So you've got to address it. If you don't have the documentation, then you explain it. And it's hard because, yeah, an ANT isn't giving you more comprehensive ranking system points, but it's still asked because an ANT could give you points under the selection criteria for the Federal Skilled Worker Program. So that's why it's there.
And Mark, this is actually something super important. What many people do, they when they create a profile and they receive an ITA, they only focus on proving the CRS points. And if they do not meet the requirements of the CEC, they always, pretty much always, like 90% of the cases that I deal with, they forget about the FSW points. And the big distinction there is that to even qualify for Federal Skilled Worker Program, you need to score 67 points. You get the maximum number of points with 5 years of work experience for FSW points. But with CRS points, you only get maximum points with 3 years of work experience. So when someone says, oh, I got an ITA under FSW and I have this work experience letter proving my 3 years of work experience, we always go back to the actual FSW calculator and we calculate if they would score 67 with just 3 years or they actually need 5. And there are many refusals when people need to prove 5 years, but they just forget about the FSW points because that was like a year ago when they created the profile that they had to care about this. And they only prove 3 years. And then the officer says, okay, so for CRS points, yes, I see there's a match, but I do not see that you meet the actual eligibility for the FSW program. And you should have proved 5 years of work experience. And so it's very important to cross-reference everything that you put in your profile with EAPR. And if there is a mismatch, it needs to be explained in detail in your application.
All right. Okay, we'll jump down and get to some more questions here. Uchi says, in my country, there was literally an ad on TV that said, study, work, and stay in Canada as an international student. Yeah, and that's probably still being advertised. You know, what is that ad saying? It says, come study, work, and stay in Canada as an international student. So basically, the International Experience Canada, in some cases, is advertising because Canadians also have Canadian international students have an opportunity to go abroad and work through different programs. So there's this reciprocity. But at the same time, anyone who's then adding on, and if you come, you are guaranteed to receive permanent residence. Well, that's an issue, right? And that's what was happening. Is this this expectation that people had that the pathway to permanent residence would always be there, and that's where people are. Okay, Gonzana says, I'm having a difficult time finding a knock that matches with my job back home. I have multiple knocks that have some duties, but none of the 50% or more. What's your advice? Oh, that's a classic. That is a classic one of these. Igor, when someone is struggling to find their proper knock, do you have kind of, at least to some extent, a little bit of a step-by-step process that you go through to really nail it down and try to isolate a knock code that's the best?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, it comes back to the structure of the actual web page that lists the knock code. So you have the 5 digits, the title of the knock, right underneath you have the lead statement, and wherever you do it, your work must match that lead statement, and then main duties. You have to perform a substantial number of main duties, most of them, right? So we typically aim at 75 to 80%, not 50. There's some duties that are mandatory and some duties that are optional. We normally do not include optional duties in our calculation, but if you perform some of those optional duties, it's always good. you must perform most of the essential duties, so those that are mandatory. So that's how we analyze the knock. Then, in terms of the strategy, you try to find the most appropriate knock code, and then you go to a breakdown of different knock codes. There's a hierarchy where you can expand different drop downs and bullet points, and it shows all nested knock codes under each category. And that's how we try to see, okay, maybe there's something else, and then we try to identify the best knock code. And when we work with our clients, we essentially do the knock matching for the officer, right? So the officer needs to open your reference letter, open the knock code, and try to find a match between different knock duties and the duties listed in your reference letter. We try to make the life of an officer as easy as possible, and we do that for the officer. So not going to spoil how it looks like, what exactly do we do, but we essentially match each duty with the duty in the reference, and we explain why this is a correct knock code, why the other knock codes do not work.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we'll just go back to Ramsey here just to follow through with the question. So there's a second part to this. It says, I can't gather passports or bills, and added second language test to reach 69 points. So this is under the selection criteria. All these changes before the invitation to apply. Is this considered misrep? Will the officers take a look at changes if I'm not claiming points for it? Understand, if you've got an aunt, you're going to list you got an aunt. So this doesn't change anything, unless I'm missing something here, Igor. Because what I understand from Ramsey is that he's saying that I have an aunt and I did list her, but then I can't get the stuff, so I've now removed her. And so the reality is your emphasis is on the wrong thing, Ramsey. It's not whether or not immigration has an issue with the change. It's whether or not you have an aunt at all, and did you disclose your aunt? That's really what it comes down to. Whether you're claiming points for it or not is irrelevant. Many people have family members that in Canada are not giving them any points, but they still have to list them because that's what the question asks. Now, there's a difference when you're looking at work history and study history. Those questions relate specifically to the comprehensive ranking system and the points that are being awarded. But the personal history section, you have to list everything, and all the way back to the previous 10 years or 18 years, whichever is sooner. And that is the key. You need to be honest. And then if you don't have the documentation, then you will take the time in a letter of explanation, which we cover a lot in our Express Entry course. And we use letters of explanation all the time with our clients when we're helping them to navigate these sticky, tricky issues. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, Mohammed says, it's been 4 months since I applied for an LMIA-based work permit from Pakistan. Is this normal? Well, it's pretty simple. Just go take a look at the processing times, and then you can figure it out from there. So let me just pull this up, and got a bunch of different things open. So let's take a look at the current processing times. So if we look at the processing times, and then we go to temporary residence, and then we're looking at work permit from outside Canada. And then we're looking for P. Okay.
It's 12 weeks.
This is Pakistan is 12 weeks. So if you're at 4 months, you're well beyond 12 weeks. And in these circumstances, I would consider applying for or obtaining GCMS notes to see what's going on with your file. So you're into overtime here. That's for sure.
But wait, Mark, so 4 months would be 16 weeks.
4 months is 16 weeks. Yeah, he's beyond the 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So you're a little bit past it. Okay, and that was last updated today. So you can see, look at immigration working. Last updated today.
No rest for the wicked.
No rest for the wicked. Yeah, exactly. All right. Okay, let's give a shout out here to Joe. Good to have you. Happy New Year to you. And yes, may 2026 be more forgiving. That would be a good thing to wish for. And then Cheaton says, wishing you all a blessed new year with lots of happiness, success, and good health. May all your dreams come true. That's really kind. I'm going to give some applause for that. That's awesome. Okay, and then we've got Akash who says, "Hey, Mark and Igor, Happy New Year! Happy New Year to you too, Akash. We really appreciate that." Okay, here's one that we get a lot of from Akash. He says, "I recently created a PR profile. In the work experience section, I only added my current job, which is the first job that I got on my postgrad. Should I have added my part-time jobs while studying?" All right, Igor, this is we just answered this one, but you want to clarify that again for Akash?
So to make it simple, in the work history section, in your profile and EAPR, you only put the work experience that you claim points for. You cannot claim points for work experience you've obtained while studying in Canada, whether it was full-time during the regularly scheduled breaks or during that special public policy, or part-time work experience. As long as you are a full-time student in Canada, that work experience does not count. So you don't include it in the work history section, you put it in the personal history section in your EAPR. In your profile, then you don't even disclose it, essentially. Not at that stage, at least, right?
Yeah.
With your foreign education, you essentially you can claim points for that work experience. And if you want to claim points for that work experience, and it affects your eligibility or you get more CRS points, then absolutely. If it advances your case, then why not, right? Like you may include it as long as you were a full-time student outside of Canada and you work part-time.
All right, we'll get over here to Saksham. And Saksham, this is something that I can't answer. So he says, "How much time does it take for dependents of protected persons abroad to come to Canada?" So this is not something that we within our firm do. We don't do a lot of refugee applications. With that being said, Igor, I'm in the process of registering for my case because I do have a family that I'm going to help with their refugee application, something I haven't done for probably about 15 years, I think. And
Nice.
so there'll be a little bit of a learning curve if I get up to speed, work with them, but we're going to see what we can do for them. But yeah, I don't have an answer, unfortunately, for you, Saksham. So we don't handle a lot of those applications or enough to be able to answer. And this is the painful part, right? 30 months. That's not surprising. They just don't treat these as additional family members as big priorities. They're backlogged with everything else, and it's sad. Okay, next question. This one is from the Zeus. So the Zeus was drawn under CEC. Does foreign work experience count as part of eligibility? So this is a Canadian experience class. Does the visa officer lay extreme emphasis on foreign work experience? Okay, so how does this work, foreign work experience, in the context of a CEC draw when someone's drawn through CEC? What impact does the foreign work experience have, if any, in that assessment?
Yeah, well, you get extra CRS points for it, but in terms of eligibility, your foreign work experience does not really matter. To be eligible for CEC, you only need 1 year of skilled work experience in Canada. It does not need to be continuous. But if you do not have that 1 year of skilled work experience in Canada, then you may only qualify for either FST or FSW. And then your work experience becomes part of the assessment of your eligibility. But foreign work experience can add extra CRS points for you and may put you like higher up in the pool compared to other candidates, and essentially increase your CRS, your likelihood of getting an ITA. So if that helps you, including that foreign work experience in terms of the CRS points, absolutely, you would
You're
want
going
to
to do it. Yeah. All right. Akash says, "Great, thanks for clarifying. I did a Bachelor of Science, 4 years in Canada at 499 points currently, learning French now, and that's what everybody's doing. If I get an ITA, I'll be reaching out to you guys for my application. Is that possible?" Absolutely, Akash. That is what we do. We do more express entry applications than any others. That is for sure. All right, let's jump to a few other questions here. Actually, we'll hit the second part of Zeus. He says, "What's the best knock that a construction quality coordinator can claim? They basically handle quality requirements on a construction job." Well, I'll tackle this one, Igor. Zeus, this is not something we can tell you because we need to look at what your duties are. And I'll be honest, I don't care what you tell me your duties are. The only thing that I care about is what your reference letter issued by your employer says. And I don't care about your initial contract. All I care about is the reference letter issued by your company that describes the job that you did and lists the duties you performed. We then, as Igor talked about at length, use our knock selection tool to provide to the officer a very clear breakdown of how the duties that you've performed match substantially with the duties listed under the knock that you've chosen. So that's how we deal with that.
Mm-hmm. And Mark, I remember, I can't recall if this was this year or already in 2024.
Yep.
But we had a client who's like, I'm working as a store manager. I'm assigning tasks and duties to my other colleagues. And I'm like, okay, well, if you do it, it has to be on the reference letter. And the reference letter was just only confirming that essentially the guy was a merchandiser, essentially, right?
Gotcha.
So if your employer is, okay, I'll say not a good person, right? And they don't want to confirm it, then it becomes a challenge, right? Essentially, we ask ourselves a question like, who's lying, right? So this is the challenge that the officers have when they assess expert entry applications, because there are some candidates that would say, oh, I worked for my uncle's company back in whatever, Bangladesh, and I was getting paid like $1 an hour, but I was essentially vice president for the whole company.
Exactly. Yep.
Happens all the time. We see it all the time. The officers see it all the time. So it has to make sense, right? And so it really comes down to what your reference letter says and whether it actually matches your profile. Because another case that I would want to share here is this judicial review that we're dealing with right now, where the officer alleged that the person could not work as a carpenter and was only a construction helper. And the officer would say, okay, so I see that your reference letter says that you were doing a carpentry kind of duties, but you do not have any prior experience in carpentry. So how can you be a carpenter? You probably were just bring me this, bring me that, maybe fix something simple, I don't know. You were just helping other guys at a construction site. And then we had to prove that the guy actually had prior exposure to woodworks, to carpentry. There are some classes in school that you complete and so on. Yeah. So even if your letter is absolutely perfect. There may be some questions by the officer if he does not believe that you actually could perform this job.
Yeah. And we put in that application, the client had come to me when they received the procedural fairness letter initially saying, hey, we don't believe that you actually did the work that you said you did. We thought you were more of a trades helper than an actual carpenter. And like Igor said, we put extensive amounts of information in. But in the end, the officer was not going to budge. And personally, I think they ignored evidence. And like Igor, described briefly, we've now filed and we're waiting for, to see what immigration is going to do. Because I think the Department of Justice have got a real, they've got a real tough time right now, because I know that IRCC doesn't want to consent. They're just sure that our client really wasn't working as a carpenter. And so it'll be interesting. This little countdown, you guys.
The application record is like 420 pages, Mark.
420. Nice. Yeah, that's what we do, you guys. When we're fighting, we fight. So the little countdown is theoretically, it's right close to what should be the New Year's countdown. Now it could be a little bit off because I turned it on just as the timer rolled over. So we've got about 8 minutes here before we're gonna do our countdown for the new year of 2026 if you are in Bangladesh. So monitor that and watch that as we go forward. Okay. Ash says, hi, Mark and Igor, does updating my express entry profile with a higher CRS score allow me to be reconsidered for future invitation rounds if I was skipped over previously? Well, yeah, if you've updated your profile and you were not previously drawn, you never received an ITA, then that's the whole purpose behind increasing your score. In fact, one of the letters that you get back from IRCC when you submit your profile is it says, hey, you should look at doing these things to increase your score, to increase your human capital and your eligibility. So absolutely you want to do that, Ash, 100%. Okay, Igor, do you want to tackle Ramsey here once again? Can IRCC refuse my application on the grounds of unjustified deposits, even though each of the three amounts is below $190, considering that I was unemployed? This is weird. So yeah, blanket, yeah, they can if they don't believe that the deposits are actually liquid funds that you can use. And if they feel like they're a loan or something like that, and they're to be used for your proof of funds, for proof of settlement funds in Canada, then absolutely they can question it. But how do you approach this, Igor?
Yeah. The concept of procedural fairness demands that an officer sends you a PFL letter if they question something in terms of legitimacy of those transactions, whether your bank statements are actually valid and authentic, right? Or if they believe that you, if they have suspicion that, for example, the money may be not yours, they should send you a PFL letter and allow you an opportunity to address those concerns. It's not like just like, oh, I see there are 3 weird transactions, therefore I'm refusing this application. If that happens, that's a breach of procedural fairness letter, and you can challenge on that. But if the PFL comes and you're giving the opportunity to respond, and the officer does not find your explanations satisfying, then the refusal may follow. So first of all, if you already know that there are some unjustified deposits that essentially causing you bad sleep, you probably should reach out and have us take a look at those, right? Perhaps you may write a letter of explanation highlighting those specific deposits that are large, and explain what those are. Maybe those are transfers in between your accounts. Maybe someone was returning a loan to you. I don't know, right? So you probably want to address all of these things proactively rather than just wait for the officer to come back and ask you. But again, if the refusal comes, right, it really comes down to how the officer justified the refusal and what was the basis for it, right? Right now, it's pretty hard for us to tell whether you can challenge or not because we just have not seen anything, right?
Yeah.
And like hopefully nothing bad will happen, but you can prevent things.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Yeah. And we always tell people the time to reach out to us is at the earliest opportunity, because then sometimes we have opportunities to deal with things. I'm going to bring this up by Zeus. Zeus, heck yeah. If he says, so working in a family business is a red flag when claiming work experience points. Heck yeah, it is, for all the reasons that Igor identified. My kids work in my practice, and they work dang hard in it, but are they working 30 hours a week while they're going to school? No, they're not. They're working part-time casual hours with me, but often people try to kind of stretch it. And if you've got pay slips and pay stubs and all of the requisite, reference letters and showing the money deposited into your account, and you're treated like a true employee, then you got nothing to worry about. But in most cases with family, that's not the case. So, yeah. All right, we got a bunch of other ones here. Proof of funds, back to this one. Chris Woolham says, does an American IRA qualify as a settlement funds? No. You need to have those funds liquid. And often what they do whenever there's investments, they don't treat those as liquid funds because they're volatile. Some are more guaranteed, investments than others. Some have very low risk, others are higher risk. But we always have to move that into an account that is it's actual funds that are liquid that you can use for settling in Canada. So yeah.
I always tell my clients, if you cannot go and buy a jug of milk,
with
your stock, then it's not liquid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This one, Yusuf, I don't have an answer for you. So it says, this is a Quebec-based one, CAQ. It says mandatory submit a CAQ certificate if the person is currently in Alberta and received ITA under PNP Alberta nominated. if you're going through any program that's outside of Quebec, CAQs don't apply. So I'm not quite sure kind of what you're getting at here, Yusuf, but if it's an Alberta nomination that goes through a federal PR program for PNP, CAQs don't play a role in it. All right, next, okay, this is Shani. Says, hi, Mark and Igor. My work permit will end in November 2026 next year. I'll apply for a new work permit under common law. Does my partner still need to have 16 months left on his permit? I don't see on IRCC anymore. Okay, so this is the time that the partner needs to have a valid work permit for. So that's what that's what Shani is talking about here. I haven't looked at that to see if there's been any kind of a change, because that's traditionally always been there now in this new world, that the when you're applying for a spousal, the accompanying spouse or the principal spouse has to have that extended period of time left on their work permit in order to get the spousal. So I haven't seen any changes to that, Shani.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have, Igor. Maybe you can take a look. All right, we're about 1 minute and 21 seconds away from our countdown here. We're going to do all of this together and ring in the new year 2026 Bangladesh style, because that's the time that we've got here.
We're 1 minute ahead, Mark.
Are we 1 minute ahead? So I look at my clock, it says 10:58, and you watch here, it will roll over 10:59. Do you see that? So mine says 10:59, so I've got 1 minute, and we're counting down the last minute. Is yours a minute different?
I sent you a link in Teams that will take you to time and date website, and it has like the most accurate.
Oh man, actually, you're making life more difficult. Am I okay here? I think I'm okay.
You are.
Okay, 11:59. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
All right.
Okay, so we are a little bit quick. So I think we're probably going to be a little bit late getting. I think the official time and date, I think, is about, see right now 39, says 20 seconds. Oh, we're pretty close. We're not bad. We're not bad. Okay, guys, here we go. Let's see if we can do this. We are officially counting down here. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year. Oh, that's awesome. I actually have to Happy New Year here. Let's see if we can get Happy New Year. There it is. Happy New Year. Oh, and we also have, just give me a second. Here we go. I don't know if those of you who are new to Canada, this is what we play. Old Lang Syne. So wherever everyone is all over this fine world, we want to wish everyone a very, very happy 2026. It has been quite a year for so many people, and we're hoping that this coming year will be a whole lot nicer. And ultimately, we'll just have to see how things play out, but we're here to definitely help everyone the best that we can navigate their way through this upcoming year. So, where are you guys who are watching? Where are you tuning in from? I think probably most people are here in Canada, but if we have anyone, I don't know if we have anyone actually over in Bangladesh. That apparently is where our 2026 has officially rolled over. Now in Canada, for Igor and I, we still have about 13 hours, 12, 13 hours here before we ring in the official new year, but we thought it would be kind of fun to just ring in the new year. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, Montreal. Akash is in Ontario. Ernest says, Happy New Year. Don't know where Ernest is from. Okay. So Amir's got 1 hour away until, let's see if I can adjust this. I don't even know if I can. It's all kind of stuck in here. It's going to adjust my number there, but I can't. Let's see. I'm going to take the 2026 away here. Okay, let's see. We've got Chris is in Colorado. Happy pre-New Year to you. Gonzan, I can't remember where you said you were from. They were laughing here. That's good. Happy New Year to you, Salim. Happy New Year. We'll fire up our our music again here. And yeah, let us know where you're tuning in from. Amir says Happy New Year. Off from Ottawa. Great to have you here. Oh, Ash is tuning in from Vancouver. Happy New Year to you, Ash. And Shirley says Happy New Year from Toronto. Hello 2026. My family back in the Philippines already had their New Year 2 hours ago. So we knew that we would catch people for sure at some point. So there we go. 2025 was a tough year, but we have high hopes excuse me, that 2026 is going to be a great year. Happy New Year to you, NATO. And this is very kind, Gilda. May everyone achieve their dreams this year, a prosperous new year. That is what we are hoping for 2026. Tanek's up in Fort Mac. Thanks for connecting in. Oh, Fayez is over in Saudi Arabia. Happy pre-New Year to you. And we want to just express appreciation to everybody who has been watching us so faithfully over the years. I was looking at our YouTube channel, Igor, and we crossed over 1,000 videos this past year. We had some pretty major milestones, to tell you the truth. And when we look at just all the success that we had, it's very humbling. We flip over here to our screen and we'll just drop off our stuff here. We'll turn our sound down just a little bit here, but we'll let it play in the background. But you know, we've done over 1,000. We're at 1,100 videos now with 68,000 subscribers, and it has been quite a crazy journey for us. Julia, Happy New Year to you. Cyprio, Happy New Year from Dubai, 2 hours away as well. Tulipa, Jamaica, good to see you. Fayez is also in Saudi Arabia. So thank you guys for tuning in. Igor and I are going to wrap this one up now with this ringing in the new year. But we want to express appreciation, like I said, for all of you and your support and everything that you've done this past year to make everything just, yeah. Oh, sorry. Joe is all over it. Yeah, 100,000 subscribers for 2026. Let's go. Awesome, Joe. Thanks so much. And if you guys feel like what we're doing here is worthwhile, do share it with other people. We genuinely want to do this in a way that is beneficial for people. And it's a way for us to get ourselves out there and to let people know who we are and for you to get to know us. And so frequently when people are booking consultations, they're constantly telling us that they've been watching us for a very long time, and it's like connecting with an old friend when they connect onto the consultations with us. And what you see is what you get right here. So we are when we're communicating with you, you'll see the same thing as our live videos. We use our same screens and everything like this, and we do these lives to basically just provide help to people that maybe can't afford it, but also to just build a relationship with you. So when the time comes and you need help, you think of us first. That's kind of how it's structured. So Kibbutz, Happy New Year to you. And he says, started to snow in the GTA. Oh, yes. We had a little bit of snow, but a lot of it's gone now. Igor, do you have any snow up there, or is it all melted away?
No, we still have snow remaining.
A little bit of skiff? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not a fresh snow.
No, no, it's not. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap up here with our Suno. I can't remember what it's called, our AI generated theme song. But thanks so much, everybody, for being here with us. And yeah, just keep coming back and we'll keep showing up. All right. Take care, everyone. And Happy New Year once again.
Happy New Year
to everyone.
Dreams take root where the maples grow, a land of promise where rivers flow. Welcome to the north.